UFC Vegas 81 is next weekend, and guys, today we're going to be taking a look at every fight and breaking down every fight with timestamps, by the way, if you'd like to skip to any particular fight on the card. Guys, hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels, and welcome back to the Clenbat channel, where we have some full card breakdown and prediction videos for you at the beginning of the week. Let's get into it, guys. Timestamps are there if you'd like to skip to any particular part of the video. Starting off with the first fight, we have Chris Gutierrez, who is finally able to fight, and he's taking on Alatengheili, and I apologize, I'm probably pronouncing that name incorrectly, but anyways, Chris Gutierrez. So I'll start with Chris Gutierrez. He's looked very, very good in the UFC, putting on like a very, very quiet win streak, and he really got a lot of like name value notoriety after he had a nice win over Frankie Edgar. But in hindsight, how really good was that win? It wasn't really like the best win, but regardless, he looked very good. But then he took on Pedro Munoz, and everybody was like, oh my god, Chris Gutierrez, hype train over. Chris Gutierrez was never belonging in the bantamweight division. I'm like, guys, and I have been saying this for so long, losing to Pedro Munoz is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. This guy belongs at the top of the division. While his record is 19-7, this guy has taken on the toughest of the tough. Losing to him is no big deal. And it's not like he got absolutely destroyed. Pedro Munoz is just like a little bit of a step ahead. But anyways, let's take a look at the Mongolian Knight. He's been a fighter who has been very, very inactive, but we have seen quite a bit from him in the UFC. He has a typical, like, he has an okay all-round game. The power is something that really could worry Chris Gutierrez. But then again, like, Chris Gutierrez might be elusive enough where he can get around any power shots that are thrown. And it's not to say that he only has power shots. He has a decent all-round game, but nothing besides the power really stands out to me, if that makes sense. But anyways, I am going to pick Chris Gutierrez to win this fight. I think he'll be elusive enough to just like have the typical Chris Gutierrez performance, just picking you apart from the outside, having a little bit of creative striking, dodging any takedowns that might come his way. But the only thing that's making me worry about this is I'm unfamiliar with how much weight Chris Gutierrez cuts. He just had a big weight cut, or possibly a big weight cut. He just had a weight cut, and anytime a fighter has a weight cut, because he was supposed to fight last weekend, of course, that fight got canceled. He already cut weight. We've seen it before. Take a look at just a recent example, Damon Blackshear. Guys who are really good fighters, and they just cut weight and then have to fight again the next week. It's really, really hard on their bodies. So that is something that could always happen. Chris Gutierrez could come out after that next weight cut and be chinny. We don't know. So the pick's going to be Chris Gutierrez, but I'm really, really worried about that weight cut. Moving on to the next fight, we have Tainara Lisboa versus Ravena Oliveira. Now, Tainara Lisboa finally had her first UFC test, but the problem was the first UFC test was Jessica Rose Clark, and fighting Jessica Rose Clark isn't exactly the most difficult thing in the entire world, but she passed that test with flying colors, and she's been looking very, very good even before that. She's a girl that actually has like very nice technique. The Muay Thai looks good. The power looks okay. You know, she has a little bit of an all-around game, which is nice to see, but Ravena Oliveira, on the other hand, while she is 7-1, the competition level is just not there, and if you look at this girl's strike, you can see that she has some knockouts, right? But her striking reminds me of a little bit of like Diana Belbita, where sometimes like she just eyes to the floor and then throws a lot of shots, but then like at the same time it's a little bit high volume, which is, it can overwhelm some people, but there's no technique behind it. Like this girl has a lot of work to do, man. This girl has a lot of work to do, and at least from Lisboa, we have seen her actually put together some like really, really nice combinations. I believe Oliveira is one of those fighters who is just going to be one of those like, I don't mean to be disrespectful here, but like those low-level bantamweights, and Lisboa's going to come in there clearly the better fighter and just completely outwork her. Give me Lisboa in this fight. I'm fairly confident in saying so. Moving on to the next fight, we have the damage. Darren Elkins taking on downtown TJ Brown. So Darren Elkins, we know what is coming with a Darren Elkins fight. This dude comes and he swings. He looks very good. It's like he has like one of those styles where he brings it into like a chaotic brawl, but at the same time, he has some technique to back it up, but sometimes he doesn't necessarily rely on that technique, if it makes sense. He's had a very up and down record throughout his entire career. As of recent, he has not been looking good. I am actually shocked that he beat Connolly here. I'm shocked that even happened. I thought he was going to get destroyed, but then all is right with the world, and Jonathan Pierce ended up getting a nice win over him. But downtown TJ Brown, man, he's a little bit more of the same, very, very inconsistent in the UFC, but the thing is, there's a huge difference in the way that these two look, okay? Like, even in the Bill Algeo fight, these two performances were very good, and I still like what I'm seeing from TJ Brown. There's it's evident that this guy is continuing to get better, while Darren Elkins, on the other hand, he is clearly not getting better, okay? Darren Elkins, at this point in his career, has taken way too much damage, and I kind of look at Darren Elkins the same kind of way that I look at Tony Ferguson, where it's like, no matter who you're putting him in there with, I cannot pick Darren Elkins. The dude looks aged, he looks slow, he looks unathletic at this point. While sometimes he is able to push through that, it's just like, he is not the same guy walking to that cage that you've seen from years ago. He's just not. I have to go with youth. I have to go with TJ Brown. The only way that Darren Elkins can win this fight, because you know what? Darren Elkins can still fight like he likes to fight. He still can have those brawls. He still can look good in those fights, but he's just slower. When he's swinging, it's easy to catch him, okay? TJ Brown, as long as he doesn't get sucked into an absolute war, he should dance around Darren Elkins, whether he wants to take it to the ground, whether he wants to jab his face off, just fight a nice technical fight, and I think he's going to beat Darren Elkins, because especially like I said, TJ Brown, while he's 17-10, he's appeared to be making some improvements. I don't think he's like anywhere near Darren Elkins' skill level at this point in their careers. Give me TJ Brown. I think he's going to win a decision. Moving on to the next fight, guys, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, to be honest with you. We have Ashley Yoder taking on Emily Ducote, and the reason I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because, like, I truthfully don't believe either of these girls belong in the UFC. Take a look at Ashley Yoder, 8-8, and she's been so inactive, man. She has been so inactive. Yeah, it's been over 2 years since we've last seen her, and there's really nothing to write home about, right? She's not there technically. It's just one of those fighters that are outside the rankings in the strawweight division, in the WMA divisions. It's just like, I am just so not interested in this fight. She's taking on Emily Ducote, who just stands there and does nothing great technically, right? I cannot believe she got a win over Jessica Penne, but in hindsight, Jessica Penne also isn't that great. You know what I mean? But then all's right with the world. She lost to Angela Hill. She lost to Lupa Godinez. Nothing surprising there. Guys, like, people are picking at Emily Ducote in this fight. I'm not even sure she's going to win. I do not think either of these girls belong in the strawweight division. I would honestly think about betting against them if they fought anybody else. Anybody else. I gotta go with Emily Ducote, though. She's younger. She's going to be probably a little stronger. She's been more active, so at least that's there. Like, that's something to take into consideration. Ashley Yoder, we don't know how she's going to show up, and even when she was active, she didn't show up and look good. Give me Emily Ducote here. Moving on to the next fight, we have the return of Russian Ronda, Irina Alekseeva, and she's taking on newcomer Melissa Dixon. Now, guys, this is another fight. Man, this is such a good card for some of the fights that are on this card, but there's some of these fights, like, oh, man, I don't know, man, like, if this is just necessarily any good level to come into the UFC. So, Irina Alekseeva, there was some hype coming into the UFC, but little did we know, well, if you've seen any of her other stuff, the striking is just not there, man. The striking is just not there. It doesn't look good. While she does have a nice sambo background, she utilized it in her UFC debut, and she looked like she didn't... It was just unimpressive, but she got a win. You know what I mean? She looked okay, but Melissa Dixon, on the other hand, while she's 5-0, take a look at this girl fight. It is just wild striking, nothing there. Chin in the air. She's going to get hit with punches, but to be fair, she walks forward through those punches, and she's a little bit of a scrapper, you know what I mean? But for this pick, I have to go with Alekseeva because at least we've seen good takedowns from her. At least we've seen the capability to get a very nice submission from her, especially against a fighter like Stephanie Egger. And while that's still not the best level of competition, it's better than anything Dixon has done. So I'm with a low confidence going to pick Irina Alekseeva in this fight, but this is another fight where it's just like, I don't even really care too much, you know? There's some great fights to look forward to, though. Moving on to the next fight, we have Michel Pereira taking on Andre Petroski. So every time I see Michel Pereira's record, I always think like he put together quite like the quiet little win streak there. And there's been some close decisions, but this dude could be a problem. However, it is important to note, this is Michel Pereira moving up to middleweight, okay? I don't know how I really feel about that. I don't know how he's going to look, but he's had some cardio issues in the past. Maybe that will help. Who knows, really? So there's a big question mark on this fight for me, okay? So Michel Pereira, like I said, he's put together a very, very nice little win streak going on. He's had some ups, he's had some downs. He's an okay fighter, very flashy, right? Is very powerful, very explosive, but that's at some points led to him losing his gas tank a little bit. He's taking on Andre Petroski, who, while he's 10-1, I really believe this guy's very overrated. He's looked good in the UFC. He's had some very, very good performances, okay? Very good. But At the same time, not against like the toughest level of competition, but it's been okay. It's been okay so far. But in this fight, Gerald Meerschaert, this fight truly could have gone either way. One of those fights ended where I was like, I have no idea who won. And if you go back and take a look at this fight, if this fight went like another 20 or 30 seconds, this dude was getting finished. And that's nothing to really take away from him. But Gerald Meerschaert was finally that level of competition where he reached like the gatekeeper of the middleweight division, and he didn't pass that test at all. He was gassing out. He was sloppy, constantly overextending. This last performance just left a bad taste in my mouth, and that was only a month ago. While I do have questions about Michel Pereira moving up a division, it could work out for him. He's shown good striking. He's been explosive. I feel like if these two get into a little bit, I don't want to say a slugfest, but if these two really start going at it, I feel like Michel Pereira is going to get the better of it. We've seen him overcome his opponents. And the way Andre Petroski was really falling apart against Gerald Meerschaert, again, it just left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. So I'm like a kind of a medium level confidence with this, and I'm going to pick Michel Pereira to win. The only thing that's really stopping me is this middleweight division. Who knows how he's going to look, man, going up against like the bigger guys. So I'm going to pick Michel Pereira, but I'm like a little bit worried about it. Moving on to the next fight, we have a rematch, and Edgar Chairez taking on Daniel Lacerda. Now these two, they fought, I believe, 3 days ago. There was not 3 days ago, this fight. But anyways, they fought very, very recently. I don't remember exactly what card it was, but it was very, very recent, this fight, okay? And what happened was they were going at it. Daniel Lacerda was actually like looking very, very good. They went at it pretty quickly. Daniel Lacerda, again, was looking very, very good, but then Edgar Chairez ended up finding a standing guillotine. Daniel Lacerda, and then this is the problem, Daniel Lacerda was stuck in the guillotine. His arm went limp. The ref stopped the fight, and then he was just like, oh, what? I was awake. So the question was, a lot of people were like, is Daniel Lacerda just faking it? Because if you take a look at his record here, of course, he's had a little bit of a struggle here. And people thought that he just wanted another shot in the UFC. People thought he wanted to leave with his win bonus. But I believe this was like a Robbie Lawler versus Ben Askren situation where the arm clearly dropped. Edgar Chairez should have gotten the win here. Okay, that's what should have happened. But it didn't. It's a no contest, and now this fight is rebooked. So I'm left to look at this fight from the minute or so that we have, right? I don't believe it says here. Yeah, there's not too much to take a look at. But I gotta pick Edgar Chairez, man. I gotta pick him. He's been a little bit more consistent. He's fought nice level of competition, while Daniel Lacerda does have power. He does have explosiveness. Hasn't been able to put wins together in the UFC, you know? He keeps losing, and he has moments where he looks good. Like at the beginning of this fight, Edgar Chairez, he came in, he stormed him, he looked pretty good. But he can never actually just go ahead and get the win. That's what's making me pick Edgar Chairez. Plus, Edgar Chairez was able to latch on a fully locked on guillotine on him. So, will that happen again? Will something like that happen again? I don't know. Give me Edgar Chairez to win this fight, though. Moving on to the next fight, guys. Honestly, I might be most excited for this fight on the card. I really might be, but there's a lot of good fights on the card. So we have Christian Rodriguez, and he's taking on Cameron Simon. Both of these guys, I'm extremely high on. I believe both of these guys are very, very good fighters, very good prospects in a division that is so tough, and I can see both of these guys having a huge amount of success. Christian Rodriguez, very tough with a nice all-round skill set. We've seen him for a little while now, and he's been quite active. The only loss that he put together was Jonathan Pierce, which honestly surprised me. I think this guy is much better than a lot of people give him credit for, but now people are finally starting to notice Christian Rodriguez because he had the beautiful win over Raul Rosas Jr. Was he overhyped? Probably, but Raul Rosas Jr., look what he came back to do. Christian Rodriguez was able to just absolutely put a destruction stomp on that train. He's coming off with a lot of momentum, but he's taking on Cameron Simon. This dude, I'm convinced. I was like, okay, this guy's a very good striker, right? But now he finally, he's had a flawless record so far in the UFC. In this last fight, he finally showed that if somebody can give him resistance on the ground, if somebody can shoot for takedowns, he can stuff it, he can reverse it, and he passed that test with flying colors against like any grappling guy coming at him. I like Cameron Simon a lot, okay? I like Christian Rodriguez a lot. I think these two are great fighters. I gotta go with Cameron Simon, though. The striking just seems to be on a different level. He's quick. He is athletic. And I love what I've seen. And I love what I've seen from his defense in his last fight. I'm convinced Cameron Simon's a real deal. I'm convinced both these guys will go very far. But I'm more convinced on Cameron Simon here. Give me Cameron Simon. I don't know how he's going to do it. I don't know if there's going to be a finish because Christian Rodriguez is really tough. But I believe Cameron Simon will win this fight. I've been more impressed with him. Okay, guys, I lied to you because I think this might be the fight that I'm most excited for on the card. We have Jonathan Martinez, and he's taking on Adrian Yanez. If you guys don't know, if you haven't been following the channel, I'm a big fan of Jonathan Martinez. I love watching this guy fight. I think he's tough. I think he is just comes in there. This dude's a dog, man. This dude's a dog. I really, really like what I've seen from him. Jonathan Martinez put together a very, very nice win streak, and he's taken on some very, very good fighters. The problem is, in this fight against Said Nurmagomedov, I remember there's been some controversy on this fight. I would have to go back, and I don't exactly remember who I thought won this fight, but I remember there was some controversy through it. Regardless, close fight, passed a great test, a biggest step in his career so far. He looked so good, Jonathan Martinez. He's taking on Adrian Yanez, who has looked very good in his career throughout. A lot of people were really, really high on this guy, and you know what? I don't mean to be that guy, but I wasn't really like, oh my God, Adrian Yanez is the next guy. I truthfully don't want to be that guy, but that's how I was feeling, okay? I thought the possibility that Rob Font could beat him was there, but I didn't think Rob Font would starch him the way that he did. He finally ran into some huge adversity in Rob Font, and now people are like, oh my God, is this guy chinny? Because in reality, Rob Font doesn't necessarily knock a lot of people out, but maybe he just got caught with that one shot. It was a very quick fight. He didn't necessarily get to put on the performance that we've seen him. The thing is, he finally took on a guy who is a huge step up in level of competition, and he got destroyed. That's where I'm kind of like, I don't know what to think of Adrian Yanez at the moment. Jonathan Martinez, on the other hand, though, while he still hasn't had the same necessary level of competition there, it's been better. It's been better, and he's passed those tests. I got to go with Jonathan Martinez. I think he has a better all-round skill set. I think he can utilize the leg kicks. I believe that Yanez is boxing. Jonathan Martinez will be okay there. Like, he'll be able to contest with him, and he might be able to chop some leg kicks down, really put it on Adrian Yanez. Adrian Yanez might come in. He might look great, okay? But I am not convinced of him yet. I'm not convinced of him in this division. However, Jonathan Martinez, I am convinced in. This is a very good fight. But give me Jonathan Martinez. I believe he will win this fight, although it's a fairly close bout. Moving on to the co-main event, we have Jennifer Maia taking on Viviane Araújo. Now, neither of these girls have been necessarily impressive in the UFC. This is the co-main event, and it's one of those fights where you can really throw it at a toss-up, okay? Jennifer Maia, at least she has fought like a little bit of a better level of competition, and that's really stretching it a little bit, you know what I mean? She's been very, very active, though, and she's put together a couple wins over here, but on the other hand, Vivi has been like a little bit inconsistent at the same time. 36 years old, but then Jennifer Maia is aging as well. It's just like, you've seen the same type of performances from both fighters. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose, and they get touched up, and they have a little bit of a ground game where you can hold somebody, get on top of you, just kind of do there and not really do anything, okay? Both of these fighters can do that. And the question is, who's going to do that? So I don't really know in that sense, but I have to say Jennifer Maia because she has done that to a better level of competition, you know? So that's the tough thing right there. I can't really ride with Vivi here, but I guess he could because it's a little bit of a toss-up fight in my opinion, and I don't really know what to say about it. Very lackluster co-main event, but give me Jennifer Maia for this one. Moving on to the main event, I'm really excited for this, guys. We have Sodiq Yusuff taking on Edson Barboza. And guys, to be honest with you, I'm having a little bit of trouble picking this fight, but I'm leaning towards Yusuff. We've seen him in the UFC for quite a while now, and he's proved his belonging, you know what I mean? He's not necessarily at the top of the division, but he's a very good fighter, Sodiq Yusuff, in my opinion. Edson Barboza, though, we've seen him a few times down at the featherweight division now. He found a little bit of, a rough patch there, but he's coming off of a big win against Billy Quarantillo, but not everybody really thinks Billy Quarantillo is necessarily UFC caliber. I believe so, but like you could argue that this dude sometimes he's a little inconsistent. You know what I mean? I like Billy Q. I think he really belongs, but it's just a conversation that I've been seeing on Twitter a little bit. But anyways, that's a conversation from Twitter. So how much do you really want to take that into consideration? But anyways, I believe there's a big technique difference in this fight because if you see Sodiq Yusuff, he's very powerful. He throws a lot of overhands. He kind of like just wants to bully you in a sense. And Edson Barboza will absolutely have the technique advantage there, whether it's just you want to chop down his legs, whether you want to jab his face off, land some nice right hands, the technique is going to be there, and Edson Barboza will absolutely be better there. The thing is, Sodiq Yusuff is very good, very powerful, and he brings an element of pressure to the game. Edson Barboza, in the past, we know that there's an easy game plan to beat Edson Barboza. Pressure, pressure, pressure. He doesn't fight well off the back foot. Sodiq Yusuff could absolutely bring that fight to Edson Barboza. But the question is the difference in the striking level going to be enough for Sodiq Yusuff? Another thing that he has on his side is age. He's in his prime, and Edson Barboza at this point in his career, I don't know if it's the weight cut or him getting old or a combination of both, but Edson Barboza is clearly out of his prime. He's older now. He's slowing down. He is not the same dude that we have seen all of these years. Maybe the damage is catching up to him. I don't know. Again, could be the weight cut, could be a lot of things, but regardless, when he's in there now, he's not the same Edson Barboza that we've seen years ago. That's why I'm leaning towards Sodiq Yusuff. But at the same time, Edson Barboza is clearly the better striker, and I would imagine this fight's going to stay on the feet. Clearly the better striker. I can see a world where Edson Barboza KOs him. But I gotta go for a prediction. I gotta go with the guy who's younger, who will bring the pressure, and I believe that's going to get to Edson Barboza. He'll be able to go 5 rounds too, and Edson Barboza has been fading as of recent, so give me Yusuff, but I could very well see him losing this fight as well. But Sodiq Yusuff is going to be the pick for here. And with that last fight, with the main event, closes up our video today. Thank you so much for watching. If you watch this far in the video, thank you for being here, everybody. Look out for the betting guide that's going to be coming out tomorrow. Thank you so much again for watching. Let me know what your picks will be down below in the comment section. If you'd like to continue watching the Clenbat channel, there'll be 2 videos on screen for you to check out right here. I will see you either there or in the next video, guys. Take care.